Thanks for validating my opinion there, John. Much appreciated.
Oh, I don't understand.
So then when you asked ChatGPT, where did you get that from? It went, oh, you're right, I don't have a source. Welcome to the Traxion Control Podcast, your weekly dose, so far, of sim racing and racing game news and opinion by the Traxion.gg team. I'm Tom, also joined by Tom and John, as ever. And our first main topic for this week is career modes within sim racing. And we actually thought of this idea way before the Assetto Corsa EVO news exploded over the internet over the past few days. We will touch upon that, but in a few minutes' time. First, we're just going to discuss what we'd like to see from sim racing career modes in general, and whether or not people who want serious hardcore sims are going to enjoy single player progression off the back of Le Mans Ultimate releasing a career mode this year and teasing some pictures of menus relatively recently. The Steve Byers tweet that we discussed last week from iRacing, because iRacing is going to potentially have people be blown away by their career mode. And then also there's been a little bit of news that was sort of hidden within an Automobilista 2 DLC announcement, which was, we're going to make all these other things first, and then we'll work on career mode last, and maybe you'll see a part of it at the end of this year. So, what do we all think of career modes in sim racing?
I am a big fan. I think I have established that I am not a super hardcore sim racer. I always thought I was, but actually, I think the fact that I'm really enjoying the focus on single player at the moment maybe is an indicator that I'm not. And I am probably more excited for the upcoming iRacing arcade style where you kind of build this kind of motorsport campus than I perhaps should be. And I know that that is a contentious opinion, and I know a lot of people are maybe disagreeing with me, but I do have a soft spot for that game. And so for me, I quite like what a lot of the hardcore sim racers would call the fluff around the racing. So I do quite like the management. I like the idea of building the campus. I like the idea of, kind of doing deals and getting sponsorships and driver swaps or driver markets, I should say. But I do think perhaps that would put me in the minority if we're probably thinking of our audience. And it probably speaks a little bit to the whole overlap between sim racers and gamers. I did a bit in the newsletter last week about sim racing really being a sport as opposed to a game, which I know is a bit contentious again, but when I look at what I like in the Gran Turismo series, what I like in the Formula One franchise, which I know has its issues, I quite like the story around the racing, and I'm quite happy to have maybe 70-30 split, 70% focus on the racing, the feeling, the physics, the force feedback, those kind of on-track moments, and maybe 30, maybe 35 of the story, like the reason, like why am I racing here? Why do I care if I overtake this particular person? So for me, I am quite excited by it, but I know a lot of people will say that it's a total waste of time.
It's interesting that you say the minority, because I think you're possibly right, but then I'm with you. So depending on what THL thinks, maybe it's 3 for 3, maybe it's 2 for 3, but either way, it's a majority. I think I'm with you on the fluff as well. I actually like those kind of pointless cutscenes that come in between races. I'm not saying you want to watch them every time, but it gives me a sense of meaning and purpose to what I'm doing. When I win a race in a career mode, and it's my first time I've won a race, I want the game to acknowledge that was my first win. I want something to make me feel like I've done something special, rather than just returning to menu, congratulations, you placed first. And I can't explain that. Like, that's not in any way a tangible benefit to your gaming experience, right? It's an emotional one. And it can be so simple, but just that feeling that almost that I'm not alone in this career mode, even though I'm literally talking about single player experience, just the feeling that someone or something in the game acknowledges that I've just achieved something, and now it's leading on to something else, I think is important to the enjoyment of an experience. And for so many people that don't do online racing for whatever reason, whether it's time, which we've talked about before, we talked about last week, that's the time sink involved, the pressure of your actions influencing other people. Maybe you just want to sit in your sofa and crash into some cars, or you want to make mistakes without punishment, and you also want to be able to pause to go and have a cup of tea. So there's all of that going in there, but then there's also just the feeling like you've actually got a purpose, as you say. And for me, that's why I'm with you. Career modes need to be in these games.
The other thing about single player is time, right? So I don't have hours and hours at once. And I made this point last week, actually. I said about, iRacing. I feel like I need hours to practice so that I get to a decent state where I can compete and not drop iRating. But I was actually looking just now for a comment under the YouTube video of last week's episode from Terjahella, probably getting that wrong, who said, iRacing and iRating, if you don't practice and that's what you do, then your iRating will not tank. Just saying, so you don't need 2 to 3 hours. So I guess what he or she is saying there is that if I never practice and therefore I'm a bit rubbish, then I'll always be racing with the lower iRating people. And so relatively, it won't tank, which is actually a really good point. I could just jump into an online race, and as long as I'm happy to be a 700 iRating, actually I don't need to go practice for 2 or 3 hours. So that being said, I still do like the offline, no pressure ability to jump on to my rig for an hour or two and do a bit of career mode. So I think that's the other reason why I quite like single player.
I'm with you both, but I don't think any of us are saying here career mode or online multiplayer, right? We're saying it as an additional thing. So if you're really into only the ranked multiplayer, then that's fine. That still exists on iRacing and Le Mans Ultimate, for example. These will be additional. I suppose the fear would be, is it taking away development resources? But I think at this point, the netcode on both is pretty strong. I'm not saying it doesn't need any work. It still always needs maintaining. And if the career mode requires more content to plug gaps, that will also be able to be used, more cars and tracks for your online multiplayer as well. So I think also you've got to look at there are some, let's say, more general racing games out there. We keep going back to Gran Turismo because in the past it's been a stalwart of career modes, right? I don't think GT7 has a particularly amazing one at the minute, even though I enjoy it. But if you look at the trophies for that, you can publicly see that I think it's less than 10% of people have ever even completed one online ranked race in Gran Turismo 7. So I think all these companies have seen that and gone, well, we've got a really big, strong competitive community who want ranked racing, special events, team races. In Le Mans Ultimate has even got the career mode. But in addition, we can widen our audience even further by adding an additional mode that is optional. And that's why I think it's a very good thing for the industry in sim racing.
Do you think that the issue with some of these bigger games as to why career modes have taken so long maybe is because there is so much opportunity and so much scope? Like, I think LMU, as a specific example, doesn't really fall into this category because with LMU, you can focus on WEC and European Le Mans series or any other series that come in. And therefore, you've got a sort of controlled focus where you can say, right, career mode is working up from bronze to platinum or working through the categories. I think with your AMS2 and iRacings, which obviously we're still waiting for the career mode and we're very excited to see, but is the issue that there's too many disciplines. There are too many opportunities to do something incredible, and that maybe makes it more difficult to actually come up with something. Because I think as soon as we all think of AMS2 career or iRacing career, we think, oh my goodness, you can start in Clios or Formula Ford, and then you can go touring car route and then Formula route. And unless you can find a way of streamlining that, a la Project Cars or a la Toka Race Driver 3, for instance, with the World Tour mode, if you can't do that, does it just become way too much to manage? And how do you do cutscenes for all of these different series, or how many different forks are there? So that, to me, could be an issue there.
I was just wondering if this is maybe quite a polarizing issue. And what I mean by that is if you look in the comments I'm not going to jump the gun on today's podcast schedule, but when games announce whether they are or aren't doing something to do with their single player or multiplayer, the single player crowd will jump in and be like, I don't care about online racing. This isn't what I paid for, blah, 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 blah. And those who like the online racing, the esports, the ranked racing stuff will be like, stop wasting time. So I know what you're saying, Tom, when you said it's not a case of this or that, but when dev teams are so constrained with resources,
yes,
actually there is an opportunity cost to whatever they do. And so there is an element of this or that. I know as a player, you could go and do one or the other. But I think whenever a game studio announces one or the other, then the community, depending on which side you sit, it will shout for their side, basically.
Yeah, totally. And we'll touch upon that one, like you say, in a bit. I think with iRacing and Le Mans Ultimate and AMS2, there's already a lot for people to do already. So then it is an additive thing. But you're right, when a game is in its nascent stages, it is a touchy subject. The other thing I was going to mention was we need a klaxon every time John mentions Toka Race Driver 3. So that's at least one per episode, I think, so far.
Yeah.
Nice one.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
And the other one I would like to mention, and I think actually you touched upon it, John, is that there's actually a lot of disparate, varied content in these sims, which is fantastic. How do you build a career mode? I'm not sure. My big concern with all of these, in the sim racing space specifically, is that so much of the content is walled behind DLC packs. Could you really be progressing through a career mode and then it goes, oh, you have to buy to enter the next race in this path? Well, you're going to have to buy the pack.
Or watch this ad. Watch this ad for the next race.
That's where I think, though, having a career mode that makes you feel in control but is actually somewhat linear comes into play, because you could say, okay, well, if you're on the touring car path, your next branch will be either this, which is free content, or this, which is also free. But actually, here's a third option. If someone has the Renault Clio Cup DLC, you can do Clio Cup instead of the GR86s, or do you do something like that where it's still linear, but you have the option to choose DLC if you so desire?
Well, okay, so I'm not the host of this podcast, right? Tom, you're the one. You dish out the questions famously, and I can't wait for today's quiz. But I would like to ask you both a question, which is, considering a single-player campaign within the sphere of racing games, what is your favorite feature of that campaign? So I'll go first. My favorite is like the commercial management behind a team. If there is an element where you can manage your finances, you have to deal with crash damage, tires, sponsorships, hiring drivers, etc. I really like that. So that for me is something I get quite excited about if I see elements of it dropping into a single player campaign.
For me, it's the end of season moment when you finish your current campaign and you're fighting for whatever position it is that you're trying to achieve for your goal or the game's goal or just for finishing. And it's that, what happens next? What offers am I going to get? What are my opportunities going to be for the next path? Am I going to get a contract offer in the same series? Am I going to progress? Or am I going to get some unexpected special event or cutscene? It's that anticipation of what's coming next if it's unpredictable. That's the important element for me. And it maybe sounds super trivial. I'm just being honest about what invokes the emotion. And then it's that case of, I hope this game is unpredictable, because if it's predictable, I'm going to get bored quite quickly if I know exactly what's coming after this race finishes.
I think both of those are ones I like as well. But a couple of things that we've only briefly touched upon that I do enjoy is a driver's market. I think only of the Sims coming out, the only one that could really do it would be Le Mans Ultimate, because it's the official game of WEC with the real driver names, right? So hiring a driver would be really cool. And I do think the Formula One games do have a good career mode. I think if you're a Formula One content creator and you've played 700 hours in the career mode, you're going to hate it. It's going to feel derivative and boring, and you're going to probably make videos saying this new version is not very good. If you're an average player, do 1 to 2 to 3 seasons in a career mode. I think the progression system they've got there is very good with the car upgrades. Now, in sim racing, you can't necessarily do that per se without breaking the immersion, because they're supposed to be serious. But that is a fundamental part of those games that I find enjoyable. Let us know on the Spotify and YouTube comments your thoughts on career modes in sim racing games, and if they can be inspired by more general, wider racing games like F1 and Gran Turismo. If you think there's a place for them or not, if you're interested or not, we'll be here, and we might read some out the best comments next week. We must move on now to, the same topic. Career mode is a sim racing game, but specifically for Assetto Corsa EVO. The headline on the Traxion website that we wrote, this was last week, was Assetto Corsa EVO ditches original career mode concept, which I think has been potentially not misreported, but it's very easy to spiral from that and think that they've ditched all of the career mode completely. Kind of sounds like they have, but they're saying that there's still going to be single player modes in there with a restructured and revived driver academy. Maybe harking back to something in the original Assetto Corsa, not sure. We'll have to find out. Anyway, the full statement, which I implore you to read in full, is listed on the Traxion.gg website. And interestingly, was only in, I think, the Assetto Corsa Discord, and not really shared around as a press release or a blog post on the website or on their social media, which also, I think, led to a few things getting out of hand there. So we'll go through some of the community comments on those in a minute. But first, our opinion.
Well, I'll go with mine first. A little bit of confusion, and initially I almost didn't know what to think, but I think that's a reflection on the overall situation, because in a normal world this news would just instantly make me go, oh my goodness, this is terrible, because so much of AC Evo was built on the idea of it being a Gran Turismo on PC. Now, why was it built on that? Because of general discourse, but also because of statements from Kuno Simulazione and what was said about the career mode. And then obviously that gets inflated by people who are very excited and say, oh, that sounds like it could be more like this or more like this. And then everyone gets very excited about something without really knowing what it's going to be. And I think, therefore, they became a victim of some of that hype, whether it was from themselves or from other people. But really, when I get down to the crux of it, you go, yeah, do you know what? A couple of years ago, when we were all getting excited about AC Evo, that was one of the huge things that we were all very excited about, was this idea of having a Gran Turismo style car culture experience on PC that, yes, we might still get, but it's going to look very different. And actually, it never got close to feeling like a Gran Turismo title in the slightest. And we're obviously still in early access. So disappointment for me.
Interesting. I don't think that they have committed to scrapping as much of the essence of the single player experience as I think some people are making it out to be. Like, I don't think this is a huge part of it. So it's the XP virtual currency element, right? But actually, that's not, that the open world element's still going to be there. The modding element's still going to be there. The kind of all the elements that made Assetto Corsa a success are still going to be there. The force feedback, the physics, etc., is going to be there. In fact, I did a tweet last week when this news came out about saying that I think it was a great idea. I said it was a good pivot, right? It's in my opinion, they're focusing on the things that people really care about. And I ran a poll. Did they get this right? And 87.5% of people said it was the wrong decision. But then in the comments under that poll, I really think people have missed the point of what they're doing here. Like one guy, LJT, said many factors to the original AC success, such as being an open, customizable platform for modding, top tier force feedback, community hosted servers, etc., not being replicated in Evo. I don't think anything in this announcement is saying that they're not going to do open world. They're not going to have, like a hardcore physics engine. They're not going to be focusing on force feedback. Like, I think that everything that we really wanted, I think when they announced AC Evo at first, everything that we got excited about is still there. None of that has been touched in my mind, but clearly from looking at the very angry tweets that I got, or not tweets, X's that I got, one person saying, "Are you effing dumb?" Clearly, I'm in a minority here of where the opinion lies in the community.
I hope you're all enjoying this video. Just a quick message though for those of you using Fanatec equipment. Maybe you're looking to upgrade, maybe you're looking for new peripherals. If you use the affiliate link down in the description below, it will take you to the Fanatec website. It won't make a difference to your experience, but what it will do is help support this Traxion GG YouTube channel and of course our website. And that will help us make more content like this in the future. Back to the video.
Well, just to rewind a little bit, so there's this now infamous roadmap, which they reneged on. Obviously, development is difficult and things changed. Obviously, now in retrospect, that might have been a mistake, right? Easy for me to sit there and say that, though. But on the roadmap itself, it doesn't actually say specifically career mode, right? It actually says, on the first version, game economy, car rental, purchases, XP, rank rewards, driver profile, driver license, driver academy. However, did say we want to create not just a career, but something that actually is the RPG of the petrol heads, and that was during the announcement. So that does set an expectation, I'm afraid. Then this recent announcement, yes, you are right, Tom. They're saying there's still going to be modding foundations. The free roam just had a trailer recently, and we have to be very clear here that we believe, although we're not fully sure, that is separate from what we would call a traditional career mode. And we don't know yet if there is going to be any progression or what you do within free roam, really, other than drive around and explore, which is also really cool if it was just that. But in the statement from last week, they say, while the original career mode won't be part of the final direction, this original career mode, not career mode full stop, providing meaningful structure for solo play remains very important to us. So I suspect, and we'll have to get further clarification on this, there will be still some single player thing, but it might be more like what I said earlier, the original Assetto Corsa, where it's just a basic foundation of events. You need a license to get through to certain events, as opposed to this, which had a vision of incorporating spending money, earning money. Somehow your level would tie into that.
But is that exciting?
Well, yeah, I think it gives you a meaningful progression in various ways. So you can have a career mode where it's just racing focused, and you say, right, win a championship to unlock the next or move on without currency. That's racing focused. But then, like, the idea of car culture and collecting and being able to save up, being able to put in the work to save up to buy your dream car, that does come into currency and, okay, maybe XP in some form. I still think open world can also, I think what people are tying career mode to open world with is the idea that in open world, maybe you could do some sort of delivery mission and make money from that. And that would allow you to then go and buy tuning parts in a tuning shop, or, there's all these thoughts going on about all these different elements of what could be. And by scrapping the idea of currency and XP, are you just creating another sandbox sim where, oh yes, you can drive on this car on this track, we can free roam on a map that essentially could be a mod, or we can drive on these mods, or we can race something. What then are you doing that's different to an Assetto Corsa originally? And then what is the point of Assetto Corsa Evo? Is it to replace Assetto Corsa and be just a more modern Assetto Corsa, or is it to try something more bold and focus more on the car passion itself, which is kind of what was being said? So it all ties in to me with just a bit of a lack of overall identity. Like we're years in, or we're at least more than a year in now, and coming up to 2 years in before too long, and it still feels like I don't know what Assetto Corsa wants to be.
That's really interesting, because that has exactly replicated. Somebody else posted under my little poll saying, so what is the point of Evo then? Which I think is kind of what you're saying there, like it's losing its identity. What is it? But my response was it's taking the successful elements of leaning into car culture from Gran Turismo, the open world elements from Forza Horizon, and the modding and physics force feedback engine of AC1. On paper, if you offered that to me, I'd be like, absolutely, that sounds great. And I don't know. I feel like, it's a talented team, right? They're a talented team of really passionate sim racers and car people. I don't think what they're going to deliver is going to be unenjoyable. I don't know. Maybe this is kind of blind, just naive optimism, right? That I just think that if they can take all the great things from the first Assetto Corsa, apply it to an open world, and drop in some elements of car culture, the mechanism by which you unlock that is kind of secondary. It's kind of the how rather than the what, potentially.
Maybe. Well, we'll have to see in the fullness of time. Certainly, it's going to be not released at the end of last year, which was the original plan.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So this is an element of it is maybe focusing potentially on what there was a bigger hubbub about, and that was the free roam. But again, I don't want to speak for the developers. We'll find out in the fullness of time. So we'll have to move on, but we've got some community feedback on this. Christian Milenkovic 13, refund requested. Very simple. Spanky Steve 1, great username. XP in car games is so weird, it just becomes a chore. It's better without, in my opinion. However, on the flip side to that, Ryan says they removed the only thing that would have made me play it over the original Assetto Corsa. Kunos continues to prove that AC was their last great thing they'll ever do. Then Churgihel, which I probably mispronounced, but I think you mentioned him earlier, Tom. So there's two pronunciations for you.
No,
Turge is always watching our streams as well on the Traxion YouTube
Thanks,
channel. So
Turge.
big shout out to Turge. I never know if I'm getting the pronunciation right, but shout out to you for always
send us a
supporting
voice note.
They removed the thing that was different from the other Sims, and the one thing a lot of people bought the game for. This is a Ferrari strategy and not one of the good ones. Sad stuff. And then another comment here, I don't care. So on that note, we should move on to full send or dead end. So just to recap here, I'm going to say 3 statements, then all 3 of us are going to say if it's full send, which is good, or dead end, bad, or disagree, as it might be. So the first one is, early access should only be for small indie studios. Tom, full send, dead end.
Dead end.
John, full send, dead end.
Dead end for me too.
I'm going to say full send. I need to think about why. Look, just to be contrarian. Le Mans Ultimate needs more tracks. Full send, dead end, Tom.
Full send.
John?
Dead end.
Whew. Good one. I'm going to say, I shouldn't respond at this point. Should be neutral. I'm going to say full send. Okay. And final one, we need more 7 out of 10 games. Tom, full send or dead end?
Dead end?
John?
Full send?
Yeah, I'm going full send on this one.
Oh, I don't understand.
Right.
Okay, I'm excited for these 3.
Okay, so early access should be only for small indie studios. Explain yourself, Tom.
Well, I don't think the size of the studio matters. I think it's the price point. I think if you come out with an 80, 90 pound game, it has to be finished. If you come out with a 25 pounds and you want to, and community involvement in the roadmap is a big part of your ethos, doesn't have to be, but some game studios want to do that. Then the price should be reflected. You ramp up the price as you go through your early access. So I don't think it's about the size of the studio. I think it's about the size of the price tag.
John?
Control C, Control V, essentially. Not necessarily. I agree on all of that. I just think that it's a case by case basis. I do not think you have to categorize it and say only small indie game studios or small indie studios should be early access, because there could be other reasons why another game from another studio might be, and it's not about the studio. It's about the whole package and whether it would suit it or not. So that's why I've gone dead end. I'm
just fed up of studios with a history of successful games then going into early access. I think
that's valid.
That's where I'm coming from, because thanks for validating my opinion there, John. Much appreciated.
That means that nothing else you've said is valid, because that's the first time I've actually said that.
Exactly. No, so then I was thinking, well, maybe Steam should put some sort of rules and mandate certain things like, if you've sold over 1 million titles already, then sorry, you don't need to do early access, in theory.
They just create a new company.
However, yes, it's basically you can't control it, and it would be an absolute minefield. So it exists, and in many cases it's a good thing, because the studio would not survive without the early access program. In my opinion, that would have happened to Le Mans Ultimate. But on the flip side, just, try and avoid it if you can, please. Thanks.
Yeah, right. If the question was should less games be early access, I would say yes. I would say full send. It's more just that I don't think it should be limited to your studio size. There's some way of regulating is fine, but yeah, it's the nuance of the question there for me.
So Le Mans Ultimate needs more tracks. Now, John, you said dead end for this. Why so?
I don't think that is the main thing it needs right now. I think they've just added more tracks with ELMS. I know that's not the question. It does. Yeah, you'll have your moment. Don't worry. Yes, ultimately, and maybe I'm literally saying I'm wrong straight away. Ultimately, it would be good to have more tracks in Le Mans Ultimate. I think if Le Mans Ultimate added more cars in future, more classes in future, obviously worked on a career mode, do I think that more tracks is going to change its overall status as a sim? No, I think it's going to, maybe in 4 or 5 years, I would answer this differently. So therefore, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think there are so many other things that are important. Assetto Corsa Competizione had a very successful lifespan, which is now beginning to drop off. And it only had a set amount of circuits in that game. It doesn't need unlimited circuits. And it means that drivers will be more familiar with the circuits they're driving on. It means there's less DLC to buy to have a full set. And it just means that, you maybe are more familiar with what you're doing. It's easier to jump into a race, and we can focus on cool cars, cool other content, and obviously stuff like career.
It's a live service game, right? So in my mind, that means it needs to evolve over time, which if you're a racing game, you've really got 2 real options, right? Cars and tracks. I suppose you could have formats, licenses, etc. But it's Le Mans Ultimate, right? So it's fairly limited. Well, or who knows? But yeah, why not? Why not more tracks? Would be my. I guess right. In the same way as you kind of rephrase the question, I suppose actually the question is Le Mans Ultimate needs more tracks. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why not? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need more tracks. But if this game is going to be, growing and evolving over the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's got to have new tracks.
Yeah, firstly, apologies for writing that down, because I hate it. I hate it when people say need when it's related to a video game. You don't need anything for a video game. It's completely optional.
I win. I got it right.
You need food, water, and shelter. Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all this. So you don't need more tracks.
Cars and tracks are the sixth layer.
However, and maybe I'm now interpreting this and being a hypocrite, because I was putting my finger in the air for John with his interpretation of the question. It's only got 7 tracks, including the base game, right? And it is not a subscription title, and it's not free to play. So... And then on top of that, when you buy the DLCs, you get the 2024 season and you've got ELMS. I still think for the number of online people racing it, and when they want to do the Le Mans Virtual Series, and it's hopefully, like Tom says, a platform to last for many, many years, I still think it needs a few more, and I'm interested to see how they do it because WEC in real life has the same calendar as last year, so you can't add more to be official there. They're completing the ELMS European Series very, very soon, maybe next month with Barcelona. Where do they go next? Asian one, somewhere different. We shall find out, I suppose. Anyway, next one and final one for Full Send Dead End was we need more 7 out of 10 games. And Tom was a bit bemused by this. So, Tom, you have to answer first, I'm afraid.
Well, I hate it when people say that we need anything when it
I
comes
know,
to
I used it twice.
Touche.
Yeah, I guess taking the question really literally, we don't need more 7 out of 10 games. and also, if I had a choice of 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10, you could bet I'm going for 10 out of 10. So I guess what you're saying is we don't need any more 5 or 6 out of 10s, as opposed to we need 7s.
I interpret this in a very kind of specific way, Tom, and I'll let you correct me if not. But I think that the idea here is we need more solid games rather than people reaching for the moon and then falling short, or just, a lack of anything, or, 2 years of promises and then something launching in early access that isn't quite right. What we need is just some more solid, safe games that are released, that are enjoyable, that you can pick up quickly or pick up in cheap or secondhand, and you can play it, have fun with it for a few weeks, and move on with your life, having been enriched for it. That's where I see that question sort of aiming.
Well, I've been hoisted by my own petard, haven't I? Fair play.
What phrase?
But
that's the intro.
You damn petard.
Yeah. It's always getting caught on things. But I suppose the mindset here was, so we have our review for Ride 6 now on the website and YouTube channel, and we gave it a 7 out of 10. But it doesn't mean that it's bad, first of all, because if that was a university or a school grade, if you got 70%, isn't that like a first? And so
it's at least a pass.
Yes, at least a pass. Yeah, probably 2-1. So there's firstly over the last 20 years has been a mindset of less than 8, rubbish, don't know about it. At the same time, you've had these games like John was saying there, where they're just almost trying too much. What I would like to see is rewind the clock, which is not possible, and have mid-budget games that try to achieve smaller things and do those well enough. And then you might knock it because it's not innovative enough or it's too similar to last year's game. But ultimately, the experience is fundamentally fine and enjoyable. And that's what Ride 6 is. So that's what we meant by that. But some interesting responses.
As a failed tech bro, I'm reminded of a startup phrase, which is 7s kill startups, right? And I think there are some parallels here. So the phrase 7s kill startups is referring to hiring, right? So if you hire somebody who's a 1 or a 2 out of 10, they're very obviously not performing, and so you have to have a different conversation and then move on. If you hire a 9 or a 10 out of 10, fantastic, because they're going to be overperforming. They're going to be, increasing your culture of productivity, and that's great for the startup. If you hire a 7 out of 10, they're not necessarily amazing. They're not earth-shatteringly good. They're not necessarily moving the needle, but also they're not bad enough that it's obvious that you need to move on, right? And I wonder if for the racing game genre in general, this is similar, i.e. if you've got a 1 or a 2, you're probably not going to download it in the first place because the reviews are going to be bad. Or if you don't read the reviews, you download it and it's rubbish, you'll just refund it straight away. If you get a 9 or a 10, you're going to absolutely love the game and you'll be like, Sim Racing is fantastic. If you keep hitting 7 out of 10s, you'll be like, you know what, I'm going to go back to Red Dead Redemption and just I'll wait for Grand Theft Auto, or I'll try FIFA. So maybe that is a totally irrelevant analogy, but it just came to mind. The 7 out of 10 is a good thing. In my mind, immediately got my back up.
Well, if you agree with that, then let us know in the comments below. But we must move on because it's not time for the quiz. We've gone too long and we don't have time for the quiz this week, although I think we said we were going to leave it off for a week or two last time out.
Thank the Lord.
I do need to say, though, that we asked a community question, and it was which were the first tracks that were real world to be licensed in Gran Turismo. It was Gran Turismo 2 from 1999 or 2000, depending on which region you lived in at the time. And the two circuits were, and Jack4688 got this correct in the comments, Laguna Seca and Pikes Peak could be well off with my guess of Pikes Peak, though. Well, Jack, you were correct. So well done. Now, actually, I tell a lie. There is a little surprise quiz. Just one question.
Oh.
So get ready. It's 5-2 to John so far on our leaderboard. And this week's question is, how many Finnish rally drivers have won 4 WRC titles?
I swear to God.
Okay, let me think.
That's how many Finnish rally drivers have won 4 WRC titles. It's not particularly gaming related, but it's just taking a mick out of Tom.
After you, John.
I am going to go with 2.
I was also going to go with 2.
Well done.
Never tell me that I don't know anything about Finnish rally drivers, eh?
You specifically asked last week about Finnish rally drivers in the 80s, Tom.
No, it was also on colourblind, but I couldn't find
Colourblind.
anything about colourblind. ChatGPT said Peter Solberg was. Then when you do a general Google, and there's no reference to it. So then when you ask ChatGPT, where did you get that from? It went, oh, you're right, I don't have a source. I mean, absolutely incredible.
The best example of hallucination I've ever
Ridiculous. I can't believe it. Anyway, yes, so Juha Kankinen won it 4 times, Tommy Mäkinen won it 4 times. There we go. Right. Now it's time for community questions. And our question this week, when we put it out on social media and Discord, comes from Sim Racing Expo, as in the official Sim Racing Expo social media account on X. They asked us, with Le Mans Ultimate becoming stronger day by day and Assetto Corsa EVO maturing, but this was sent before the recent thing, and iRacing being the competitive centre for sim racing, how can other sims survive this competition from the 3 big market leaders? Good point. John, what do you think?
I think it's simple. Do stuff that's different well and do the fundamentals well enough, right? So I would say like Race Room and Automobilista 2, I'm going to use the examples here because I feel like they hang on to the coattails of these big hitters, and I would consider them semi-big hitters in that they don't maybe have as many players or they're not as widely known, but they are successful in the PC only, at least, sim racing space. And the question is about competitive sim racing. So I think look at the issues or what's not there with LMU, iRacing, and the likes. Now, iRacing has lots of stuff, but it's expensive. So Race Room does something that iRacing doesn't. It's more affordable, and it has a whole heap of content like iRacing. So that's like a kind of an iRacing alternative that's got something about it that's different. It's affordable. And also it's got really interesting content and very easy to jump into multiplayer. So that's a big thing there. AMS2, on the other hand, has modding, which is strong, and it has amazing VR support, which is good. And it's got all the classic content like classic tracks and stuff like that. So again, it differentiates itself from those heavy hitters and gives you something, a reason to play it that you wouldn't necessarily play those other titles. So that's probably what I would say for that question.
I think we don't need any more, frankly. I don't think other sims have to learn how to survive this competition from the 3 big market leaders, because I just don't think we need any other sims. I think we already have a nice looking landscape, really, with, in my mind, LMU has overtaken ACC as the non-subscription sim racing title. iRacing is, to a lot of people, the premier sim racing title with the huge esports events, but it's behind a subscription paywall. And Assetto Corsa EVO is taking the force feedback and feeling of a sim and applying it to an open world car culture vibe. I think with Race Room and AMS2 doing interesting sort of niche categories and international racing series that you don't get anywhere else. That's it. Everything is covered. Like, we don't need. Maybe this is a hot take, but I just don't think we need anything else. So if I was really wanting to create a racing title right now, I would be looking at something in the Simcade, and I'd be focusing on exactly what we've been discussing this episode: really engaging, interesting sim racing campaign modes, single player campaign modes that lean into all the exciting stuff that happens around the track. So how do they survive? They just don't bother. Just don't do it.
Well, going back to the question, it's how other sims can survive. So I suppose outside of iRacing, Assetto Corsa EVO and Le Mans Ultimate, is that my interpretation of it was the likes of Race Room and AMS2, and I do think they should still bother. And I think Race Room.
Oh, they're doing well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with both of you have already said it already. Struggling to get my words out there, and I agree in that. I think focus on what's make them slightly different. And for Race Room, for me, it's the classic content. And with AMS2, it also is leveraging that this year. But I think Race Room has classic content with the ranked multiplayer, and I'd like to see AMS2 have the classic content with the career mode for single player. And it's really good at doing single player championships. Lots of people like to put liveries on old Formula One style cars in AMS2 and recreate a season, and that's what they should do best. So that is our episode of Traxion Control for this week. Be sure to follow us at TractionGG on everything. Traxion.gg/Discord. Join there. There's a little podcast section. You can ask us questions and we'll answer them on future episodes. And there's, of course, the newsletter that Tom plugged earlier, Traxion.gg/newsletter. Tom writes that every week. And so give that a read. It's fantastic. And I'll leave us with this parting thought from YT Sucks 935, which was on our Carmageddon Rogue Shift review on YouTube channel. They need to get their older titles running better on Linux before releasing new titles. And with that, we'll see you next week.